And I remember one woman coming up to us and saying, uh, I don't like your ending. Your ending isn't right. Uh, it should have, love with each other and all this together and everything. I said, well, if you think we're going to hold hands and walk into the sunset, you're wrong. you know, because that ain't
It's
happening in where I am.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kristen Donnelly of Abbey Research. And at Abbey Research, we deeply believe that stories and curiosity change the world, because honestly, it's the only thing that ever has. And since none of us really know how to be human, the best way to learn is from each other. And we believe in doing that through empathy, which for us is a mental exercise in deciding to learn how other people see the world. And this series is in service of that. It's called Welcome to My World. And I have an incredible opportunity to talk to fascinating people from all over the world who are different than me, which is literally everybody, about something in their lives that we should know more about so that we can understand a little bit more about the world. And today's guest is absolutely no exception. I am unbelievably humbled and honored to have Muriel Miguel with us, who is a lot of things, but in my mind, one of the richest storytellers that I've ever gotten a chance to meet and work with. The link to her very rich bio will be in the show notes. She's a director, a choreographer, a playwright, an actor, an educator, and is very involved in, I believe, even in the founding, which we'll hear about in a minute, of the Spiderwoman Theater company, which is a feminist Indigenous arts extravaganza that I can't wait to learn more about. Choreographed lots, studied under a ton of people, is the pioneer of a developmental technique of a culture-based methodology for the training of Indigenous theater actors. And as you guys know, if you're here because you watch our channel, you know that Dr. Aaron and I are very passionate about Indigenous artisans and Indigenous artists and storytellers. And so we are so excited to have Muriel with us here today. Muriel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for asking me.
So let's get to it. Tell me about Spiderwoman and how and why it started.
Well, Spiderwoman is over 45 years old. We are the oldest Native uh, feminist theater group, I think, in the United States, and it might be the world. I don't know. And we started because I was getting so tired of men whistling at me and men saying things to me and to my daughter. And I really felt that we had to do something.
Right.
And the subways and how atrocious that was. And so I collected uh, my two sisters, who are part of Spiderwoman, and really had to talk them into it, and some other women that I knew, and we started to talk about what is it, what is the control, and how do we make um, a piece. But I came up in storytelling.
Okay.
So I started to tell stories. And when I told stories, other women started to remember stories and they started to tell stories. So with all of us, we collected a lot of these stories about violence. The piece was called Women in Violence. But what I discovered that in a lot of the feminist stories and writing, a lot of it was just banging on the head about how terrible things were, and all people ended up doing is saying "ow," but not listening to us.
Yeah.
So I and all of us started to work on what holds this piece together, what holds these stories together, and we came up with different things like dirty jokes, those awful jokes that people can tell women.
Yeah.
We came up with the things that people don't want to talk to, the taboo things like masturbating in public. Um, we, but like, what do we look like? So every one of us went back, and this was the beginning of this. Every one of us went back and started to think about, what do you want to wear? How do you want to wear it? And why do you want to wear it? Mine was that I had a big long tail. It was a toy of one of my daughters that I wrapped around my waist and my wrist. And I would say, it's not me. I didn't say it. My tail said it. So I became, before I knew it really, that I was a trickster. And I wore a raggedy dress and ice hockey socks and and well, another woman, Lois Weaver, she was a homeless woman. She had lots of bags, and my one sister was the perfect woman, and she went out and she got a black dress, and she asked someone to draw a perfect uh, outline of a body, the front and the back. And she was the perfect woman. So, what is a perfect woman? And she said, it's Shirley Temple. And she bought a blonde wig with all these ringlets. And she covered all her skin so she didn't look brown. She wore white makeup and big blue shadowed eyeshadow eyes and long, really long gloves, so you didn't see her skin color, and that was the perfect woman. Let's see who else. We had.
I could go on that idea of that you, in order to be a perfect woman, we can't have any skin color. I could probably think about that for 2 days. That is utterly fascinating. Oh my gosh! Please continue.
So it was really wonderful because we got all these stories together and told all these stories, and then we went to a festival in Maryland, and Luis Valdez was there, and from Teatro Campesino. Do you know he was one?
I've heard, but I haven't experienced. So yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah,
and so he came in. And, he was a man that was not afraid to be amongst these feminists, and said, sisters, and we started to talk, and he absolutely came right. And he was really macho. He had a great big sombrero and a cigar, but he absolutely connected with our hearts. And at the end of the festival, and there was a big thing of whether this is theater or not. What we were doing, is it theater?
Right.
So there was a big controversy about that. And then he was approached by a talent scout looking for people to take to the festival in Nancy. There was a big art theater festival. And he said to them, if you don't take Spiderwoman, don't take anyone at all, because they're the most important. So we get this great letter in French, and I had to run all over to find out what it was saying, inviting us to the Nancy Festival. And it was very exciting. We had to find money. I had to borrow money. And then thinking about how to do this. We need URL passes. Forget about airplane tickets. We had to hire someone that could really be a business manager and a stage manager. I don't know why I was so smart, but I think it was because I was touring with Open Theater, and that's what they carried with them. And it really, really helped. So we arrived in Nancy, and to find out we were the first feminist theater that they ever had in the whole time. And then they sent us to this theater, which was awful. and it had glass on the floor and all this, and it was pretty awful. And the producer was there, and we said, "What? You want us to sweep this up and clean it? We're not
Yeah.
doing that. We're a theater company, and we don't want to do that." And he tried to convince us, and then he took the he took the broom and cleaned up the theater, and he brought in men to clean it up. So we get back to the main place where Nancy was, their nucleus place, and the story was those feminists, they made the producer sweep the floor. It was like amazing. We never had this kind of spotlight on us before. And then I remember being in the I remember being in the dressing room and hearing all this noise and thumping of people. And I said to someone, "What is that?" And they said, "That's your audience." And again, it was like, "Yeah, that's our audience. All those people are coming to see us. Oh my God!" So, so we performed. We had men in the audience that started to boo us and everything, and they got checked so fast by women. It was amazing. and and then when we came back, there were all these different people that wanted to take us to their country.
Okay.
So we went to Amsterdam to the Fools Festival. We went to Italy to a festival there. We went to Germany. We went all over. Instead of staying the amount of time that we were supposed to be there, we stayed at least 3 months longer.
Okay.
And we were teaching workshops.
Okay.
And in Italy, it was fantastic. I can't remember the name now, but it was their feminist movement.
Okay.
And we taught workshops there and talking about older women and talking about some of them were so angry at their mothers and talking about how they came up. It was really fantastic. We came back. We were really so full of this feeling, and so that is how it started, and the stories, how important stories are.
Yeah.
All of us at that time, not all of us were native, but all of us had stories. We could tell stories. We knew how to tell stories. So the workshops, that's what the workshops did. The workshops uh, talked about the feeling of something. Does a movement come out of that feeling? Does a sound come out of that feeling?
Okay.
And how deep does the sound go? How deep does the word go? And then uh, when I came back to the States, I was working with Lois Weaver and the woman who I named the theater for, who was my best friend forever. We grew up together, and she wanted to tell Spiderwoman stories. So we put her. It was in a church, and we put her on like stacks of boxes, and she was a wonderful beadworker and weaver and stuff like that. And so we put a piece of her weaving down in front of her, and she told Spider-Woman stories as she was weaving. Lois, and then I filmed. I don't know where I got it from, but it was like a river that came from her and across the floors. And Lois was on one side, and I was on the other side. And what we did was, she told a story of making love to Jesus Christ. I told a story about talking to a butterfly after I came back from the Sundance, and we just played with it. But the feeling was like, if are you all breathing together, or is there a sound coming out, and does someone else take up the sound? So a lot of the story was, it was the first time I ever did this kind of weaving, and but the sound was listening. You have to listen to go in. You can pick up a word and you can bring it back into your story. This one is she just making movement, and so we had this first time to work on story weaving. So that was, really the beginning. And then we went all over the place. We went to Australia, we went to New Zealand, we went to Germany, we were in Holland for a very long time. We in Italy, and every place was different, but every woman knew what we were talking about, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember one woman coming up to us and saying, "I don't like your ending. Your ending isn't right. Uh, it should have, love with each other and all this together and everything." I said, well, if you think we're going to hold hands and walk into the sunset, you're wrong. you know, because that ain't happening in where I am.
And that's a great, so this juxtaposition of that there are elements of especially story weaving, which I need to learn more about as you talk about it. I'm realizing that is so universal to a female experience around the planet. Yeah. But then there are pieces of this that are very specific to Indigenous women. And we talked a little bit offline about how the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls is a big part of the storytelling legacy and work of Spiderwoman.
Right. And we started it again with a new group of women who are all Indigenous. And I was like shocked. I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago when I realized it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Women are still being murdered. Women are still being beaten up. Women are disappearing. And this is at least at that time, like 35 years ago. So, what are we going to do about that? What are we going to say about that? Okay. And so I created a group of women. Some of them were ex-students of mine. Some of them I worked with before on other things. But the questions, that is the important thing of anything that we do, is the questions. And I only mean me, but I think all theater people and all people that have brains, you have to ask the question.
Yeah.
And our question, why is this going on? Why is this continuing? And you go into reserves and reservations, and the women are not talking, and they've been beaten, but it's not being said, and it's silent. So we came in there. One place I came in, I was by myself, and I was showing a piece that I worked with Penny Cucci, who was a Dewey from up north in Canada, and both of us felt that's the thing. You don't know the force that you're bringing into a room, into the play, into the seats. You don't know. Yeah. And because it feels at times personal, it's coming from your guts, it's coming from your heart. Right. And I was telling these stories, I was showing what I did. It was called Throwaway Woman, Throwaway Kids, I mean. And at the end, there were so many women that came up to me, so many women that were whispering my ears that, that happened to me, this happened to me. And at one point, because you have to relieve it, with sound and movement, laughter, funny things. You have to bring that in, the absurdity. Yeah. The absurdity of a man coming in and beating you up because you didn't who knows what, and he's drunk, and he's carrying. It's absurd, if you think about that. And so and men masturbating on trains and in Women in Violence, we did a whole thing on masturbation. And we made a song to it.
Nice. I taught sex ed for a little while. That's something I've also spent a little bit of time talking about. Yeah. I think that I want to just really, and I'm annoyed that our time is almost over because I have so much.
I'm doing it as fast as I can.
My gosh, ma'am, you are incredible. But I want to say that I find this idea of touching on the absurdity really sacred within the stories that you're talking about. Because you're right, it is absurd. It's absurd that we put up with it. It's absurd that the world has decided that it's okay. It's absolutely absurd. And so calling that out in an artistic form, I would imagine if I was in your audience, would bring me such freedom to be able to see the absurdity.
Yeah. We did another piece called Lisa Strata Number, which was a little bit based on Lisa Strada. At the
Okay.
end, the women don't go back.
Right.
and,
Fair.
and
Fair.
but one of them was like a vampire, and she had blue lips, and she was all, and she would crawl around amongst the women, and she would pick some woman, and she'd kiss her right on the lips. And the woman would end up with all this blue stuff. Yeah, but it was like these are the things that you think we are. You say lesbian, she's that blue slime over there in the corner, you know.
Okay.
And so we that kissing a woman isn't a big shock.
Right.
And that was another one piece we did called Lisa Strada Number, and it was every piece that we did all talks about that. But then as we got older, there were other things happening, and then looking back at my how I grew up in Brooklyn, truly a city Indian, that my sisters wanted to do a piece about growing up native in an Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn. So you can imagine how we
That's a
had tough
lot. Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So and my uncle at some point when I was a baby got a movie camera, a film. So we had all this film, and and all these old powwow films, and so we talked about our family and how it was growing up, and the longing for the fathers and the uncles, the longing to be back where they came from, but instead they were in here in Brooklyn, and the strength of women in the family, because if you think about it, I'm Kuna and Rappahannock, both of them are matriarchs,
Yeah.
and so so it's a pretty noisy family with a lot of women.
I can imagine. I
Yeah.
have so many more questions, but our time has come to an end. And
Okay.
so first of all, I want to say thank you
Oh,
so much.
okay, one more thing
Of course,
is
of
that
course, of course. I want to respect your time, ma'am.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, we're doing a new piece. It's a
Okay.
cast of thousands, and we're doing it at La Mama at the Ellen Stewart Theater, and it's called Misdemeanor Dream,
Oh.
and it's March 3 to 20 in 2022. We're
Okay.
going to start in February, rehearsing by Zoom, rehearsing in any way that we can. And so it's important because it comes from at some point we were asked to do a Midsummer Night's Dream, but they wanted to do it like people do it. And when we did it the way we did it, people's reaction was, I don't know what I'm looking at. And so so, so from that, we just sprang over to talk about brownies and fairies and all of these things, little people that we know about and that was told in our families.
Yeah.
So that is predominantly where we're going. We're talking about the things that people imagine but don't talk about, you know.
Wow.
But if you think of Spider-Woman, that's what we do anyway.
I'm about to say, it seems like really seamless legacy from everything
Yeah.
else you've just seen, everything else you've just told me, and the research I've done online. It seems very on brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that word brand, but yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm an entrepreneur over here. I have to say it every once in a while or they take my license away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Muriel, this has been an unbelievable conversation. I can't wait to continue it as I consume Spiderwoman works and hopefully be able to travel and see you guys in person, because that would be incredible.
Where are you?
I'm in Philly.
You're in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can come to see our show and you can come. We invite you to rehearsals if that's what it takes.
Oh, wow.
It would be, it would
I'd be honored. I'd be so privileged. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It would be great to see how we think and how we talk, because we talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about feelings and a lot about where something came from, and yeah, we talk like that, and it's something that I would like you to see.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, talking like this you know, it tells a little bit, but not all of how we work.
Well, then at your invitation, I will view this as just the beginning of our conversation. And we'll hit pause here instead of stop. And what I will say to my incredible viewers is if you enjoyed our conversation, follow Spiderwoman everywhere on socials. You'll have all the links. If you're local or can travel, definitely make sure to consume the theater. But also, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up because the YouTube algorithm really likes that. And if you like these kind of conversations, everybody follow my channel because I love to have them all the time. And in the meantime, also, because we did bring up the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, within the show notes, if you guys look below, we'll make sure to link all of the Indigenous organizations that we are aware of working with that. And I'll check with Muriel to see if she's got some others.
And the children that are being found in the graveyards now.
Oh yeah, yes.
All of that is so important now.
So much. And we'll make sure that anyone watching this has the resources that we've dug up to be able to find, follow those stories, be informed, and make decisions to live differently now that you know.
Right. And uncomfortable conversations. That's what I'm really finding.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're all uncomfortable, both. And if you're an American listening to this is not a Canadian thing. There were industrial schools in the United States as well. And so
that's where it started.
So we absolutely have to be having this conversation all over the continent and all over the world, and not just in Eastern and Western Canada. So again, Muriel, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an utter privilege. And I can't wait to talk again soon. This has been Welcome to My World. My guest is Muriel Miguel. I'm Dr. Kristen Donnelly, and we'll see you later. Bye.